We are on.
Okay, and welcome to episode 11 of Mythical Monster Investigations. I'm one of your hosts, my name is Archimage. We've also got,
Shadow all Fox.
And Zed.
and today we are looking at something other than dragons.
I thought that was a one-eyed dragon.
No, believe it or not, we have actually passed dragon. It took a long time. 4 episodes, each an hour and a half long. So,
Which for us was like, what, 2 months?
yeah. Which I'm not gonna lie, while I love dragons, I'm glad it's because you can get sick of something. So now we are going to be looking at Cyclops, which majority of people in the West, especially in America, and when they think of the Cyclops, their mind mostly goes to Greek and Roman cultures and mythologies, and in particularly the Cyclops mentioned in the Odyssey.
I'm sorry, I only
Which-
know one Cyclops, and it's dun dun
Ah.
dun dun.
Really? Right at the beginning.
Yeah,
You gotta
right at
go
the
for-
beginning.
I half expected you to somehow actually have the X-Men theme song on a soundbite somehow.
If we wouldn't get Zed, we would get copy struck within seconds.
I'm well aware.
we are still within, I think, the first 5 minutes of what would be the YouTube video, and YouTube actively track if you have a copyright song playing in the first 5 minutes.
Oh,
I
yeah,
know.
even I know that.
So yeah, this video will be pulled down instantly.
Yeah, so despite popular demand, we will not be discussing Scott Summers, aka Cyclops. Wow, I'm amazed I remembered his real name.
I forgot.
I am
for a
too,
second.
because I was drawing a blank.
Yeah, I was drawing. Yeah.
Of all the comic book things, that's what I remember? Never mind. Anyway, we will actually be discussing real Cyclops mythos, and calling them real may not be far from the truth, but we'll discuss that later. And particularly, we're going to be discuss the giant man-eating brutes who go from being images of destruction and horrible monster fight to oddly being great craftsmen and builders, which is an odd variation, but perhaps we could shed some light on that. So despite the most common being the Greek look, which is essentially a giant humanoid creature with one eye in the center of the forehead, there are other mythos of Cyclops, with variations across the world. Some variations are very small, others are, well, frankly, bizarre. But all of them carry on that feature of a single eye in the center of its skull. And because of this simple design, it's up to interpretation of what other features to have. Something that has really played with this is the days of Hollywood, and especially the early stop motion, which, okay, I will admit, it looks, fake now, but back in the day, stop motion was very impressive. And frankly, maybe it's nostalgia talking. I still think stop motion is impressive and fun to watch, though I would not want to do it myself. And early Hollywood, because of the simplistic look of especially the Greek Cyclops being a human with one eye, they played around at it, giving it exaggerated animal features, horns, legs of a goat, things like that, just to essentially make it more terrifying, or maybe it was just they wanted a more aesthetically. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think it was. I always took it as that was their way of kind of fusing multiple Greek myths, because they pretty much 100% based it off of the Greek myths, and
That's true.
I think with that they was trying to with the goat legs, that easily came from Pan and the satyrs and the fauns. So they probably was they were probably thinking, okay, Cyclops, bestial, we got, give it goat legs, because most of the time whenever the Greeks was thinking of something bestial, they would make its lower half animal, like the Cyclops, I mean not the Cyclops, like the centaurs and
Or the satyrs.
and the satyrs. So I'm
That's
like,
true.
they probably did the satyrs, and then they gave it a horn for good measure to kind of solidify that satyr-like look to it.
Yeah, just a good
Although
fusion. That
I
makes sense.
I am going to say, in terms of Hollywood, it's again amazing that my main Kratos got the more accurate look of the Cyclops down.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to God of War for all the. I mean, they actually get a lot of the mythos.
As much crap as people give God of War for being completely inaccurate because Kratos never existed, and him killing out all the gods and all of the random stuff. They get a lot of the stuff they do get right.
I mean, they really do. I mean, Zeus was an arrogant schmuck.
Although Medusa, they don't really get that well because her lower half is a snake, and I don't think her lower half was snake in the original mythos. So
Um, okay, so we're actually going to cover
that later
Medusa in a
on.
later
So
video, but actually, she could have.
okay, I knew that
Believe
was
it or
always
not,
iffy because I know it was sometime regarded as a harpy like lower half.
yeah, no, Gorgons get weird. Some of them are harpies, some are snakes, some have wings. Gorgons get very strange, but again, we'll do that in another video. Now, speaking of strange, we're going to be looking over various different types of Cyclopses. We are not going to cover them all. We're going to cover some of the bigger ones because a lot of them are just kind of there, and most of them kind of stick to this simplistic creature. Now, we are not going to cover mythos about one-eyed creatures if they originally used to have two eyes. For instance, we're not going to cover the Norse god Odin, which, believe it or not, if you look up a list of Cyclops-like creatures, Odin is on that list because he does only have one eye, but in his myth,
He took
he gave
that
up
out
that eye.
voluntarily. He wasn't born that way.
Exactly. So we're going to be looking at creatures that were physically manifested to only have one single eye. We're not looking at things that used to have two eyes. So with that being said, since it is the most famous, we'll start with the Greeks. And again, from the Greeks, we get mostly the man-eating monster, giant Cyclops. Most famous being Polyphemus. Now, this one was a giant, and a lot of people don't know this, although I think more myths are coming around again, is that he's actually the son of Poseidon. So these giant monstrous Cyclops were actually, in some way, partially divine, despite being giant monstrous man-eaters.
Now, if memory serve, I don't believe he was the son of Poseidon and his wife. I think it was a random nymph,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken. If I'm remembering my Greek children pantheon list correctly, I believe
That's
that
a
was
long list.
I believe it was before he married. I believe it was either an affair or because I know it was with a sea nymph, but I don't believe because Ambrosis is the wife of Poseidon, and I don't believe she was his mother, Polyphemus'
No.
mother.
No, I believe
Triton
Cyclopses
Triton was
are
the son of Ambrosia,
Poseidon,
I
yes.
believe. Yes.
Yes. Yes, no, Poseidon, just like Zeus, had affairs. Uh, his children not as famous as Zeus, obviously.
Yes.
Could be a video in its own. We may get to that one. But, yeah, Cyclopses were said to be the Poseidon nymphs, which Odysseus famously blinded this by sticking a large cedar pole into his eye. And funny enough, he actually told the Cyclops that his name was Nobody.
My
So when
favorite
others
story.
asked him, who blinded you, Cyclops famously said, "Nobody has blinded you." Although Odysseus then made the part of telling the Cyclops his real name, the Cyclops prayed to his father, Poseidon, and, well, Poseidon decided to be a dick and basically keep Odysseus from his home for quite a number of years.
And for those seeing the image on YouTube of the Cyclops throwing a rock at the boat, that is after he was blinded and Odysseus is being very boastful and taunting him, which is how the rocks are finding their way towards the boat.
Yes. Yeah, while Odysseus was very clever,
He was arrogant.
he was arrogant, which actually is the point of his story. So this is where the most famous trope of man-eating Cyclops comes from. There were others, but this is the one that kind of stuck because also we have the Cyclopses that were kind of the polar opposite of these man-eating monstrous brutes, and the most famous of them being the brothers Orontes, Sterops, and Argus, who were actually craftsmen Cyclopses who were known for forging the weapons of the gods, including Zeus's thunderbolts. Until later on, Hephaestus became the forger of the gods, but before him, these were the ones who created Zeus's thunderbolts to fight against the Titans in the Great War when
Well,
Zeus took power.
Well, don't forget, they also made the helm of invisibility for Hades and the trident for Poseidon.
Yes.
It was a
Yes, they did.
reward to them because Zeus, when he, I believe, attacked. Did he castrate Kronos successfully before the Titanmachy? I believe so.
Uh,
He did no. He freed his he freed the other Olympians from Kronos' belly by making him sick, with
Yes.
poison. And
Vomit up.
during that same time, during the beginning of the Titanmachy, the first thing he did was he freed the Cyclops and the Hecatoncheires from Tartarus, and the Hecatoncheires fought alongside Zeus during the Titanmachy, and the Cyclopses, in their gratitude, forged the weapons of the gods so that way they could fight them.
Yes. Which I believe was actually a scene in the Kratos game. What's the Kratos game called?
I don't.
God of War?
I don't
God
think
of War. That's it.
I don't think it was a scene because you don't ever really see the Cyclopses who may. Is it
No,
Cyclopses
but
or
the war
Cyclops?
with the Titans was.
No, you do see. That's the third game where Kratos free the Titans from Tartarus, and he start making the march on Olympus.
That sounds awesome.
Oh yeah, no, that's the third game. Is opening up. You're riding on top of Gaia as you climb up Mount Olympus.
Nice.
Remind me to show you the opening after this.
We'll do that. And okay, so those are the two types of Cyclopses that you're going to find in Greek mythology. Now, obviously, the man-eater one is the more famous because, well, let's be honest, it's a more interesting story. These three, they built Zeus' thunderbolts and Hades' helm, Poseidon's trident. Cool, but they didn't really do much else. Giant man-eaters that heroes have to fight and destroy. It's just a better story. So let's be honest with that. But, as I mentioned, Greece is not the only place that has Cyclops. And other ones that we can be seen, the next one we'll look at is, I'm going to probably butcher all of these names, so forgive me. Catalani, which is an Albania mythos. And this one is also a man-eater, one eye, and oddly enough, it has knees. It's extremely similar in retrospect to how it's seen, being this brutish, thuggish creature that needs to be destroyed. And a part of that might be that Albania is very close to Greece. In fact, if you look on a map, they're practically neighbors, which is something that you're going to find is that these Cyclops regions were actually kind of huddled together because the next one we're going to look at is from Turkey, which is a Turkish myth, and it's called Tepegöz. Now, Tepegöz is also a essentially giant Cyclops creature. It's pretty much standard, but its story is a bit more interesting. So it is also born of a nymph, but apparently, according to its mythos, is that a nymph gave birth to a pile of flesh, which was a disfigured multi-pile of flesh, and a divine king or divine Khan, which is, slang for king, came around and found a Cyclops within the flesh. He took the Cyclops out and he tried to raise the Cyclops, that would be Tepagos, for good, but Tepagos was a brute. He was a thug, and, well, he eventually apparently bit off some kid's nose, and then later on ate someone and, well, basically developed a taste for it. Now, this is where stories get a little confused. Some say he was driven off to the woods where he can kill people. Others say he found a cave where he began to grow giant, and he demanded to be fed. He demanded 50 people to be fed, but they chose instead to give him 1 or 2 people and then give him sheep. But they didn't do this, so he came and destroyed the village. But regardless, he was a being of chaos. He was very destructive, and the only person who could kill him was his half-brother, who eventually killed him in a very familiar way by first hitting his only vulnerable point, because no weapon could hurt him, but his one vulnerable point was, does anyone want to take a one vulnerable point on the Cyclops was?
Below the belt. One good kick and the Cyclops going down.
Surprisingly, no. Zed, would you like to take a guess?
I'm gonna guess the back of the neck, like the Titans in Attack on Titan.
Well, you know what? That probably would make more sense. But no, as it turns out, it was the eye.
Never would have guessed.
I know, who would have guessed?
I mean, apparently the kick below the belt wasn't invented yet.
Apparently not. It's not like Dark Souls where you can just stab everybody in the crotch.
I mean, if it works.
Okay, so no, it was the eye. He stabbed him in the eye, and then apparently after that, he was able to cut off his head with a fine sword. Which, I don't know why he had to stab in the eye first. Apparently that's how it went. So, yeah. Again, Cyclops, close vicinity, as we can see. All these regions have kind of the Cyclops viewed as a monstrous creature. Which takes us to our next creature, which is from the Cantabrian culture, which I have no idea where that's located. This is called the Anjakanu. Anjakanu. Okay. Now, this one is interesting. So, besides the fact that he has 10 digits on his hands and feet, so not 10 altogether, 20 altogether. So, yeah, literally he's got 10 fingers on his right hand, 10 fingers on his left hand, 10 toes, you get it. And his most famous, despite his massive size, is also supposed to have a mane and beard of fearsome, shaggy red hair. Not surprisingly, he is also the embodiment of brutality, cruelty, and destruction. However, they are said to be afraid of only one thing, and that is the Anjamas, who in this mythology are good fairies, and they are at war with one another. Oh, is that where oh, it's in Spain?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
That's at least where I got full pulling it up on Wikipedia.
Oh, okay. Well, again, not too far away from Greece, but interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really understand the 10 fingers on each hand. I haven't greatly looked into it. Any theories you guys want to shoot out? Because I got nothing.
I'm still trying to work out. I've never heard of Canterbury on apparently the Iberian Peninsula, so that really got me. Apparently there were the Cantabrian Wars, which oh, okay, that's why I didn't hear them. They was Northern Iberian. Okay. I see them. I thought they were Southern. If you look, they're Northern Iberian, like right at the top of Spain. Okay.
I got it.
I know of. I didn't know that what the war was called, but I remember Roman had conflicts over there. Okay.
Where didn't Rome have conflict?
Hey, that's true, but
I
I
mean,
would say. Oh, go
they
ahead.
found evidence of Roman forts in China.
I mean, look, Archimage. If you gave Caesar enough time, I mean, you know what? I want to see now. Rome invasion of China.
I mean, apparently they did something because again, they found Roman forts in China. So I don't know what exactly happened, but definitely at least there. Now I don't
Probably.
know how far they got in,
I
but
would ask how close was it to the Silk Road?
I have no clue. Like I just know they exist. I haven't done
Because
extensive research on
my inkling would be because Rome controlled a good chunk of the Middle East at that time, which is on the doorsteps of Asia. I will almost bet that the Silk Road that they put forts along there to maintain trade or peace in that area. So I would wonder if it's next to the Silk Road where those forts were found.
I mean, it might be. I legit do not know. I might look into that later. Be a nice little follow up. Um, okay, so well, anything you guys want to add about this weird ass creature?
I mean, it's weird.
Yeah, and believe it or not, we're gonna get stranger, and that leads us to our next Celtic mythology, and this is called Balor. Yeah, Balor. So Balor is said to be the leader of the. Oh, I'm gonna mispronounce this. Leader of the Fomorians. Fomorians. These are monsters. They are creatures of malcontent. Bring terrible destruction on the world. Um, Now, again, this creature is another one-eyed monster. Now, the funny thing is, it's meant to represent drought, destruction, and especially the power of the sun, as it's said that when his one eye opens, it actually causes heat, drought, and destruction, which is why if you look up pictures of him, you'll often find him, oddly enough, very much like the mutant Cyclops, fire coming out of his eye.
Ah, so he is an X-Men.
Which actually led to his nickname, his name, meaning, and I'm probably going to regret telling you, but his name meant the Flasher, or the Flashing One.
So he
Comment?
is like Cyclops.
wait, what?
There was you don't recall this, but Marvel used to do a swimsuit issue every couple of months back in the day. And Cyclops was
What?
a character was one of the characters they would show for the male side of in his swimsuit. Not naked, in a actual swimsuit.
Wait, why would they have us? They're cartoons!
It was like the pinup gals of World War II.
Oh, forget it. Well, okay.
And now now you got me tempted to post the Cyclops page.
Please don't. Okay, there's enough with the flashing thing. Okay, honestly, I was afraid. This is why I was afraid of saying it because I didn't know what jokes you'd come up for the flasher. But if that's the worst one, then I think we counted ourselves lucky. So let's move on. Oddly enough, with Balor, there is an interesting story, which is actually very similar to the Greek story of Perseus. So Balor is said to be, as I said, the leader of the Fomorians. There is a myth where he is king of an island as well, and apparently his daughter, uh, he had a daughter, and he was afraid of his grandchild one day seizing his throne. So in order to preserve power, he locks his daughter in a tower so that she can't get pregnant. And later on comes back to find some hero or some god impregnated. Sound familiar?
Zeus.
Yep. Now, in this, he actually had three grandsons, which he promptly had killed, but one of them managed to survive. And the survivor ends up killing him. Which, I don't know. It's interesting that they have that parallel with Perseus, which makes me wonder. I mean, I wonder if it's actually based off some real thing. Was there actually a king who feared his grandson's taking his power, so he locked up his only child to make sure she didn't get pregnant and yet somehow still managed to get knocked up? I mean, it's interesting that these two things, Celtic versus Greek, have this very similar story. I mean, don't you think? No,
Yeah,
just
it
me.
is curious how they, because it is very, very similar. But then again, you could also compare it to, oh, what was it? The same Greek story where Zeus turned into a beam of light and impregnate a woman stuck in a tower that
That's
way.
Perseus.
Yeah, Percy.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
that's
that's what I'm
Perseus.
thinking of. Okay, Perseus.
Yeah, no, that is Perseus.
Okay,
So
that's
yeah, that's why
Perseus.
I thought it
Okay.
was kind of strange. I mean, to be fair, Zeus shapeshifted into a lot of things, including the one where he turns into a swan and makes love with a woman. Which, look, I'm not saying Zeus was right for turning into a swan,
I mean,
go at it with a woman, but what the hell was that woman doing with a
Zeus
bird?
turned into a bird to get her to become his wife.
Yeah, that's true.
And not only that, here's the creepy thing. You know how Zeus got this shape-shifting power, right? He didn't originally have that power.
Actually, no, I do not.
Oh, you don't
And I'm
know
afraid
this.
to know.
Zed, do you know this? Because this is a fascinating
I
story.
I don't.
So,
I do
yeah,
not.
so Zeus was married before he married Hera. His first wife had the power of shape-shifting and wisdom.
Oh
And
no.
he eventually, there was he had a prophecy where he essentially was he was visited by his father Kronos in a dream, who warned him that he would be usurped by his son, who would be stronger than him.
Oh, I do
And
remember this.
in order to prevent that, he tricks his wife into turning into a drop of water so that he may taste a bit of her shapeshifting ability. And when she turned into a drop of water, he'd completely swallow her. And from that moment on, he gained her wisdom and her shapeshifting ability. And that is how Athena is born, because she was pregnant at the time with both the son and the daughter. The daughter got born from breaking out Zeus's head by Prometheus splitting his head open, but the son is never born. So the prophecy is never fulfilled, which is why Zeus is never usurped by his son. Also, the reason
Yes,
he
I do
hated
remember.
Ares.
Yeah, no, I do remember that story. Ah, I completely forgot about it. I didn't know he got shapeshifted
No,
that though.
he specifically he never shapeshifted until after that event.
Yeah, that I did not know. I did remember the story the about his son usurping and everything, how Athena was born. I do remember that, but yeah, no, I'd forgotten the rest. Wow.
I'm
Yeah,
trying.
no, again, Zeus is an ass.
Metis, was that her name? Metis, I think. Yeah, Metis. Metis was
Yeah,
her name.
that sounds right. Okay. I mean, yeah, interesting. But sorry, where was I going to where was I? Oh yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next creature. Now, I'm not going to lie. Um I tried to figure out a logical like possible creature for this next one, but for the life of me I didn't have a clue what the heck this was. Um this one is called Fuckum, and it is Scottish, which since I have a Scottish friend, I'm going to not say about it. But okay, so this creature has one eye, it has one arm in the middle of its chest, and it has one leg. Not surprisingly, he hops around. Now, he may have been based on a creature known as the Nesnas, which is actually an Arabic mythos, which are basically half men. So, they have one eye, one ear, they're basically half of a man. Which, weird thing to copy from. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really understand this. Like, maybe it's some kind of insult to saying you're only half a man to be this creature, and it caught on. I mean, that's the best theory I've got. This one's kind of odd. Not the oddest we're going to look at, but I think it's odd. What do you guys think? Maybe it was just an insult that got out of control, or
Well, I mean, to the
do you
animal
think of
talk,
something?
is there ostriches in Scotland?
No.
Okay. Emus.
No.
Okay, that take out two of my thoughts. Okay.
How would an emu be mistaken for this thing?
I mean, it's very tall with a big bulky body in the center, and if his head is bending over, you can mistake it for an arm.
Considering humans did lose a war to emus, I can understand humans thinking of them as a demonic creature like this.
Yeah, but where does the one arm in the center of his chest come?
I just said when his neck is bending down, if it's dark, you may think its neck and head could be the arm. Because I've seen some of the pictures of this thing on Wikipedia, and it's they don't really head. So I've seen some of the images for these things, and it's very much. It looked very much like they were going for something. There's something to it. They either had a very ugly Scottish guy who was in the worst fight of his life to lose one arm, one leg, and one eye.
And yet still be standing.
I mean, that does look like a little bit of an emu type body or ostrich body, a big bulky center, long slender legs. And if we think maybe the emu had like a bump or something on his back, his arm could be where his head would be, just bending over. And if it's nighttime,
what am I talking about? Maybe there's no emu in Scotland.
If they
Man,
dark,
now you got me thinking about this.
if it's dark and they're drunk, I mean, it could happen.
There are no emus in Scotland.
Well, not
Are you
anymore.
sure about that?
Not anymore. They killed them
Decently.
all, apparently.
Decently. Maybe nowadays in the Scottish Zoo.
We're gonna have
emus were
comments
not
from Scotland
native.
saying, "Don't you, Archimage? Don't you insult our Scottish emus?" Like,
Okay, if there are actually emus in Scotland, I apologize.
or maybe it's an
Now I'm
overgrown
curious.
goose that thought it was an emu.
I'm pretty sure they know what a goose is.
I mean, or they should. They didn't. A lot of people in medieval days didn't know what a crocodile or alligator was. So,
Yeah, emus are native to Australia, not to Scotland. Ostriches are native to Africa. So it's probably not an ostrich.
really fat goose. So,
What?
a duck maybe, or
Have you seen a goose?
I mean, look, geese get mean. So, I mean,
Yes, they're mean, but we pretty much know what a goose looks like.
if I look at this thing, I turn it upside down and turn the thing like literally rotate the thing a little bit, do some enhancement. It can look like a goose.
Okay, to move on from this conversation, I will actually admit at certain angles, the ostrich and emu does kind of make sense, which is why you were getting
See?
at that.
See? I told you, it does make sense when you look at it. It would kind of seem like a ostrich or emu almost.
Yeah, and to be fair, there are other large birds, though none of them really state they're from Scotland. But who knows? Maybe there was an extinct species at the time. So, I mean, maybe. Or, maybe someone brought over something. Who knows?
I mean, either that or it was a Scottish guy who lost an arm, lost a leg, and lost an eye, and that was just an inside joke of them making fun of that guy.
I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, we're gonna see that later on, where we saw with the vampire that evil essentially turned vampire. Evil was essentially anything, denoted as evil. So It's not impossible, but then again, one of the odder creatures, though not one of the oddest ones we're going to look at, as now we're going to get to the odd list,
The
or the weird list,
yokais.
and yeah, no one should be surprised it's of the Japanese yokai. Which, yeah, look, I'm sorry, Japan's weird. Japan, you've got a rich history and all that, but look, some of your stuff is.
And that's why we love them.
Yeah, we kind of do. Okay, so starting with Japan, we're going to start with the Hitosume Niudu. Hitosume Nudu. But I have no idea. It's a This creature basically looks like a tall human priest with a single eye. Doesn't really do anything, but that's what it is. We're gonna kind of speed through these because, look, if we're gonna go over Japanese yokai, because that's just there's a lot to do with yokai, and they all get weird. And possibly one of the weirdest everybody knows about. I know Shadow R Fox is excited about this one.
Oh, I love this
Is
one.
the Kasobake,
Yes.
the one-eyed umbrella.
Yes.
Go ahead,
I-
talk about it a little
I
bit.
mean, if memory serve, I think I'm trying to remember. I think it was was it an umbrella that essentially was abandoned and it ultimately became, because that's the thing
Yes.
with a lot of yokais in Japan that look like household object that someone just put googly eyes on, is because that household object was abandoned after a long period of time, and then eventually it start to gain sentience, and it will either gain sentience in the way of it was mad because it was abandoned, or if it was treated well, it gains sentience as a almost a peaceful yokai, in the sense of, yay, they treat me nice, I'm just gonna be chill and nice. But most of them I know as hunting houses or scaring people by hopping up and down. I believe that's the long. I don't know where the long tongue came from. I always think that's just them being a little bit perverted. Um,
Yeah, because I don't think from the original pictures I saw, I didn't long tongue, but to be fair, it's Japan.
but I believe that was the case. Was that it was an old umbrella that gained sentient and turned
No,
into a.
no, yeah, you're correct. It was a lost or abandoned umbrella that turned into a yokai or a demon, as it is in Japan.
I know it the best because it was always a opponent of one of the greatest video game characters of all time, Kirby.
The ravenous cannibal and destroyer of worlds.
Oh yes.
Don't let that 8-inch cute little ball of bubblegum fool you. He is a monster. He will devour you without a second thought.
Fighting all type of eldritch gods.
Right?
Pretty much, yeah. That's like every final Kirby boss is an eldritch god by our standards.
I'm not gonna lie, it reminds me of old TV shows where, like, the sitcom mother used to say, "Don't abandon your socks. They get so rank, start moving on their own," type of thing.
That's pretty much, if I recall correctly, that's how like many Japanese yokai get their start. Is they get abandoned and they grow resentment for being abandoned, and they gain life. If you recall this is a slight side tangent, but if you recall those dolls, that Japanese dolls you will see in some old-fashioned Japanese houses that look really creepy and almost like ghostly.
Most dolls do.
Yeah, most dolls do. That was a story, was keeping those dolls around because putting them in a place of honor was honoring them, which made them turn into good yokais. But if you don't, or you abandon them, it will become an evil household spirit type deal. Can't remember those names, but
No, I don't either. I wonder if that's where they got the idea of Chucky.
um, Chucky
I don't
was
care enough
more
to look
of
it
a
up.
voodoo, because they straight up use voodoo for Chucky.
That's true. I don't care enough to look that up. But yeah, so one-eyed umbrella, and then well, unless Shadow R Fox, you have anything to add with that? Or...
No, if I'm able to come up with something or something more, I'll bring it up later on. But
Okay, so next we're gonna move on to the avoid, but I might as well mention it because it's weird. The Shiriimi, which for those of you watching on YouTube, not subverted joke. It is literally a yokai who has one single eye in its where its anus is supposed to be. Um, yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't. I'm only mentioning it because again, Japan is kind of weird.
I
So
mean,
I'm willing to move on unless you guys want to say something about this.
I hope it never get butt kicked in a fight because otherwise, that's gonna be a painful fight.
Yeah, I guess it's both a pain in the
Uh,
ass and a pain in the eye.
Now you don't have to know the background to this because I don't really know this yokai that well.
I have no clue about it. I really didn't want to look it up.
Okay, I'm curious real fast.
Well, while he's
Um,
doing whatever, Zed, do you have anything you want to say about it?
so so I got the story.
No, not really.
Long ago, a samurai was walking at night down a road in Kyoto when he heard someone calling out to him. Wait, who's there? He asked nervously, turned around, and found a man stripping off his clothes and pointing his bare buttock at the flabbergasted traveler. A huge glaring eye then opened when the strange man anus should have been. And that's the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, no, that's the
It
same
does
story I
not
read.
calm harm to people. It joys come from scaring people. So it's
Yeah,
literally
no,
just
that's-
there to scare people.
Yeah, no, that's what I got. For all I mean, if I'm looking into this story, development of mooning to, who knows, the first butt plug. This is Japan.
We just saw the first flasher who became who became an urban legend.
The first mooner who became an urban legend.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it would be kind of hysterical if that was the origin myth.
I think
Like,
that
we
is the
just
origin
solved
of the myth because literally the story sounds like a guy just was walking down the road, saw another guy, the guy got naked and mooned the guy, and he's like, I don't know what I'm looking at.
Talk about the eye of the beholder.
Oh jeez. I'm just thinking this is probably where pink eye came from.
Oh, it's. I mean, I've heard of brown nosing, but this. You know what? Okay, moving on. Let's move on. Okay, the next one, less crazy. The Yamawaru, which basically just one-eyed ogre that dwells in the mountains. That's about it. So again, what we're seeing is kind of this, this continuous theme of one eye and usually causes. Now, the one that we are actually going to pay attention to, I think, holds the best explanation to shedding some light on the genesis of the Cyclops, is our next one, which I'm not going to lie, is a real downer. Like, this is where things are honestly going to get a little depressing. So to do that, let's have a lighthearted moment and play Who's That Monster Pokemon. I think it's a perfect time. Let's uplift our spirits a bit before I just take us all down a few pegs.
Oh, okay.
Sure, because that makes perfect sense.
I would like to hear a better explanation, sir.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Okay, Zed, take us off. I think there was only
just
one.
just show Dusclops.
Okay.
Just show Dusclops. There's two options, this and its evolution. Nothing
What?
else has a single eye.
What is it?
A ghost.
It's a ghost.
Oh.
It's a ghost Cyclops. That's it.
Oh, kind of like what's that? What's that thing Ben 10 has with the one eye?
Oh, Ghost Freak.
Yeah, that thing.
It's Ghost Freak. That's its name.
Right. But I haven't watched Ben 10 in a long time.
I actually haven't. I actually watched it fairly recently.
Did they make another
Yes,
series of that?
It has multiple.
It had multiple.
Ah.
Which one?
Yeah, which one?
I don't know. But anyway, I only ever watched the first one.
So the Scarlet entry, which won the most recent game, Dusclops is feared because it says to pull the soul out of anyone who gazes upon the strange movement of his hands. The Violet's entry is Dusclops' true form is said to be a bright red eye burning within his body, but no one had ever seen such a thing.
Okay. What's its evolution?
I'll pull that up real. Let me grab that real fast. Pulpopedia, don't fail me now.
Just to warn you, if its evolution punches you, you will die.
Is that
No, I'm just saying, just based off of its size and its fists.
how
Damn.
big is it?
If Legends Arceus is anything to go by, it can vary from the size just of a regular person to, I guess the alpha variants are about the size of 3 people.
Okay.
At least one, or at least two. It's at least the size of 2 people. That, and I think one of its dex entries mentions that because that middle section with that middle line opens up to a mouth and it devours souls. I know that's an entry.
So the Scarlet entry for Dust
Noir.
Noir is it's said to take lost spirits into his plant body and take them to the afterlife. Yeah, there you go, Alchemy, trying to be happy about this. It comes and goes between, and this Violet entry is it comes and goes between this world and the afterlife. People fear this Pokemon because it is said to suck in lost spirits and take them along. So yeah, Alchemy, very uplifting here.
Well, more uplifting that we're gonna look into, and believe it or not, it fit with the theme of what the Cyclops originally was, which I'm actually surprised about. Because I'm not gonna lie, when we look at the genesis of the Cyclops, it's kind of more.
Oh yeah, no, I know that.
Yeah. But still very interesting. But it shows again that, Cyclopses, even today, are kind of seen as this, well, kind of destructive force, something to be, well, feared. Which is weird considering that when you really think about it, Cyclops, aesthetically speaking, is a very tame monster. All it really is a giant human with one eyeball.
Well, I mean, that can be pretty intimidating. If I saw a giant alone, that would be pretty intimidating. If I saw a giant with one eye in the center of its skull, I would be even more intimidated.
Yeah, true. I'm just saying, based on, the monsters that we looked at and the monsters we got today, aesthetically speaking, like just in terms of looks, it's tame.
Yes.
That's what I mean. But yeah, no, you're right. And it is interesting, though, that, it is one of the monsters that was very late to becoming could possibly be a good. Because, like in Greek mythology especially, they had centaurs, even though a lot of centaurs were often, not less than reputable. There were some good. Like, what was the one that trained Hercules?
Chiron.
Chiron, that's it. Chiron. So things like that. But the Cyclops stays pretty much a force to be reckoned with and not something to, screw around with. And we might actually be able to figure out why, looking into the genesis. And to understand where the Cyclops came from, actually a good way to do it is to start off with this final legend of a Japanese yokai with a single eye, which is called the Hetosume Kazo. I doubt I pronounced that right. But yeah, this is a bald-headed child demon. It's completely harmless. What they basically do is at births, they pop up.
I beg to differ on that one. Just looking at this, I would not think it is harmless.
Yeah, no, but believe it or not, in Japanese yokai mythology, it is harmless.
Okay.
It pops up, it scares you, then it goes away.
Like the butt demon.
Okay, so it's a prankster.
It's the butt
Pretty
demon.
much. And you'll notice, unlike many of these, it is not a giant. It's actually, in fact, the size of an infant or a small child. Now, you may be asking, why am I suggesting we focus on this one? Believe it or not, this story let me try that again. This story may reveal a very real, medically realistic Cyclops, which means Japan might not be as weird as I've been claiming. Well, maybe I don't want to go that far, but in this one instance, Japan might actually. Because, believe it or not, infant Cyclopses are actually real. They are, in fact, a genetic disorder called cyclophia, which cyclophia is a fusing of the eye sockets. So, in this very rare genetic disorder, both of the eye sockets fuse together to form one eye. The nose does not properly form, and unfortunately, the infants do not survive. You're not going to find an adult with this disease because it is such a huge and horrifyingly bad genetic mutation that the infant often dies within a few hours. I think maybe the longest any has ever survived is maybe a week, but I cannot confirm that.
Yeah, I
Bottom
always thought
line,
they were
there are no
stillbirth.
adults with this. Yeah, usually they're stillbirth. Sometimes they do live, but they do not live long. And for anyone who sees this, believe it or not, this image is very tame. I
Oh, it's
highly
super tame.
suggest, I highly suggest and recommend you not go looking for this image. Okay, because look, I've seen a lot of medical deformities. I have taken trips to the city morgue with my schools. Don't ask. I'm not gonna lie. Looking at the images and they have preserved cases of this with real babies with cyclophia. It's kind of haunting. Like, honestly, it will give you nightmares, especially if you're not ready for it. So again, for anyone watching this, do not look this up unless you are mentally prepared to see it.
I went out of my way to like when I was looking up pictures for this particular picture came from the Wikipedia page because I was a little bit paranoid because I knew how bad. Like I've heard this one, and I'm like, yeah, I don't even want to see this because I've heard of how bad this defect gets, and most like the fact that most because I knew of this and I knew most children who get this they're stillbirth. They never live. Like I was
No.
surprised to hear from Archimedes they actually do survive a couple of weeks sometime because most of the cases I hear they die. They're dead. They're stillbirth. It's straight up
No,
dead.
the majority they die. The majority they are born. They're stillborn. Believe it or not, some do survive, but like I said, an incredibly short time.
To get
Which
a little bit of just not positivity, but a little humor just to lighten the mood a little bit.
go
the
ahead.
the protein that caused this defect is also known as the Sonic the Hedgehog protein. Because Sonic, if you've ever seen some of the older Sonic cartoons and comics, he have a mono eye, which is very much this. And I never knew that. And if you even want to go a step further to show how much scientists like to play games and they had jokes side to them, the inhibitor that inhibit this protein, they named it the Robotnikkin after Dr.
Hey,
Robotnik.
look, as a defense to doctors, to anyone who has to work on this stuff, you have to develop a morbid sense of humor to basic. So don't judge them too harshly.
But I mean, yeah, if because yeah, this
Look, it's
protein that
morbid,
caused
but it's no, you can kind of laugh about it. Like I said, it's a morbid joke, but you gotta some people like dark humor sometimes. I mean, there's a reason dead baby jokes exist.
it.
They're not my cup of tea, but
To be fair with the Cyclopia, this almost does not happen anymore.
no.
Like-
Thankfully, this is extraordinarily.
I have not heard any modern day cases in a first or second world country of this occurring.
No.
Third world countries, I can believe it. Or, underdeveloped countries, I can believe something like this will still happen. But most first world countries, I've never heard a case like this taking place in
Even
recent
in
history.
third world countries, it's actually extremely rare.
Yeah,
It does
so-
happen in animals, but also very rare.
Yes.
So thankfully, this is rare. But again, this is a very horrific genetic mutation, and
We're going to get a bunch of people looking it up going, it's not so bad. Ah!
it's like, no. If I'm sorry, but if you are interested in this stuff, power to you. Can see real examples at the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia. But again, if you're going to see that, just be prepared to see it because some people aren't ready. I went with someone and they broke it down in tears. So, yeah. Now, moving on, because I kind of want to get that picture off. This can be genetic, and again, it's very rare, but it is possible. Problem, but believe it or not, it's normally and mostly caused by a plant, which we're actually going to address later in the video. Now, here's the question. So you can kind of see how the Japanese Hitsusu Mikazo could be based on this phenomenon. Because think about it. Um, a demon with one eye popping up during pregnancy and then automatically, well, stillborn baby, it's kind of a less morbid reality of this. You can kind of see how that mythos goes. So the myth might not actually be a myth. It might be actual
To
what's going on.
Well, to lend credibility to that, I actually almost now 100% believe that's what went on. Namely, because the fact most yokais are while they are a catch-all terms for monsters in Japan, a lot of yokais are often associated with afterlife, ghosts, spirits. So I can easily, if this is always coming in the form of a child,
This
and
particular one, yes.
if a good number of children, or at least an or at least one, and it was and it legend spread enough, I could see someone talking about a stillbirth and a child coming out this way, and someone making a legend about this.
Yes. Doesn't have to happen often, but happen enough for.
Not even happen enough. It just gotta happen at least one time and have one person come up with a legend.
Yeah, that's true, and it can spread from that. You'd be surprised how easily rumors can sometimes turn into mythos, legends, and even though they're completely nonsense. I mean, that's why for a long time we thought tomatoes were poisonous. Which I don't want to get into that because it's really stupid.
Yeah, I vaguely recall when I think that was the medieval ages, I believe, when they used to think it was poisonous. So,
Oh no! This, believe it or not, this was believed in America during the early 1800s.
okay.
Yeah, not a good look for us Americans. Again, there's a reason behind it. It's stupid, and maybe I'll get into another video. I do not want to right now. So now here's the question. We see now that Cyclopses are in fact rather real. This is a general medical condition, but they are humans. Now, the thing you'll notice is they die in infancy. Again, there are no adults with this condition. This deformity, this mutation is far too severe to survive. So, here's the question. Why are the majority of Cyclops mythos about giant Cyclops? What's up with that? Well, believe it or not, we might get our answers from the Philippines. Now, the Philippines also has the story of a particular one-eyed creature. And this is called, I'm going to butcher this name, but I'm going to do my best. I apologize to the Philippines for screwing this up. The Bungisnungus. Bungisnungus.
Bungus Nungus. Yeah. I mean that
Yeah.
it literally is spelled Bungisngis.
Yeah. And yeah. So the name actually means to giggle, as the creature said, always be laughing or smiling. It has large protruding teeth that are always showing, and it has large tusks that are protruding from the side of its mouth. And of course, the most important feature, besides it being massive, is a large eye in its head. Now, for all those looking on YouTube, that's more or less what the creature looks like. And believe it or not, this creature may give us one of the best examples of where the giant Cyclops came from. Now, you're probably wondering, based on this picture, it doesn't fit any living creature on the planet. And, well, frankly, you're right. It doesn't match any living creature. However, it does in fact match a dead one. Now, you have to understand the premise of this is that when these myths were coming up, there was no worldwide information. There was no internet. You couldn't just pull out your phone and look something up, which to be fair, even though we have the capability to do that, most people don't. They use their phones solely for cat videos and pornography. Even though there's literally all of human at their fingertips,
Well,
that's what people use it
well,
for the majority of the time.
Archimage, if there's all of human history at our fingertip, that means there's all of pornographic history and all of cat video history at
There
our
is
fingertips.
more than that on the internet.
I hear what you're saying,
I'm
Archimage.
pretty sure a lot of people on the internet would beg to differ.
Hang on, Zed. I hear what Archimage is saying. What we have to do to get the young kids back into history and into learning, we have to make it all either pornography or cat video, and we gotta make sure to separate the two because the people who like that fused together are a whole other group that we'll deal with on another day. So I hear what you're saying, Archimage. We gotta go through the
This is not in the least bit of what I was saying.
we gotta sex up all the history of America.
Okay, do you know how much our ancestors would have hoped for the ability to have all of human information at their fingertips? We have it, and we're dumber than ever.
I mean,
Exactly. So they're all breathing a sigh of relief that they didn't have it.
Good point. Anyway, so because there was no worldwide information, you know what? Maybe it wasn't that difficult today. But they were limited to their surrounding area. They were limited to the knowledge of their surrounding area. And here's the thing. In most of these places where the Cyclops generated game, elephants are not native to these areas. Now you're probably wondering, so what? What was elephants do with it? Well, here's the thing. Everyone knows, most people know what an elephant is. Now, the people this time didn't necessarily know what an elephant looked like. And this is the other thing. An elephant's skull does not actually or necessarily look like an elephant. In particular, the elephant's trunk, much like the human nose, doesn't have any bones in it. Which means, like humans, when you take away the nose and it cuts down only to the skull, what do you have? You have a large cavity where the nose should be. And unlike humans, where a human skull, you can see the two eye sockets, an elephant's eyes are located on its side, which means look at an elephant from the front. What do you see? You see a large hole in the center, and you see two tusks. Considering that an elephant also had flat teeth, always grinning, you could see where this could possibly be what this is. I'm going to butcher this name again, Bungus Nungus. That very well could be it, and considering that the bones they would have found could very well be giant mammoth bones or even giant mastodon bones, this might have been where you get the giant Cyclops. If you don't know what an elephant is, and you find this giant bone with one giant hole in the center of it, not knowing what it is, and you've only got human skulls to compare it to, what would you think? Well, you'd think that was an eye socket. I mean, if you look at it from the side, it's not easy to tell where the actual eye sockets are. So you could actually see how this very well could become what people thought at one time. Oh, there used to be giant Cyclops, especially if you combine it with the fact that they might have already known about the very real Cyclophia cases that were going in, especially when it comes to ancient Greece. So this might have been where it is. And then the combination from ancient Greece is this, is that Cyclophia, while it is genetic, the primary cause is in fact a plant called Veratrum californium, which produces the highly tetragenic alkaloid cyclopamina, or 2-deoxygenava. I'm probably mispronouncing those. Now, this toxin causes the brain of a growing fetus to remain whole instead of separating into two hemispheres that it generally does. And this also happens with animals who ingest the plant. Now, you're probably wondering how the hell they ingest it. Well, this is not because of its taste or anything else, it's because it actually closely resembles another plant called hellebore, which was unfortunately prescribed by Greek doctors, as reported by Hippocrates, to women for headaches, vomiting, and cramps, which means a lot of women were possibly accidentally consuming what they thought was consuming this plant when they thought it was hellebore to help with the pregnancy, and unfortunately had the genetic defect of cyclophia, which combined, you have children born with this horrible affliction, and then you find bones of giant creatures which you've never seen before with an eye socket in the center. More than likely, they look very similar, and you can kind of see where this giant Cyclops myth could have come from. That, well, maybe there is a chance that they could survive. Maybe if they did survive, they turned into this. I mean, that seems like a pretty good explanation, which only leaves one final question. But before that, before I forget to the final question, what do you guys think of that? Do you think it's possible that those two combinations made the giant brutish Cyclopses, or do you think I'm missing something?
Oh, sorry. I was still trying to look up because every time we had search of looking up this hellable plant,
Yeah.
and okay, now I actually have the poisonous variant on the screen. The black versions are the one that the Greeks use, not the white version. The white ones are the um there's the black hellebore and then the white hellebore. The black hellebore was used by the Greeks and the Romans to treat paralysis, gout, and other diseases.
Nice.
But the thing is, all hellebore plants are known for being toxic. All of them.
Okay.
Animal avoid these plants because of how toxic they are to them.
So it's only humans who are dumb.
Yeah, no, it's only human who was stupid enough to actually ingest these things.
You know what? I believe that. I believe that entirely. Well, and well, as you see, it had a cost.
And yeah, okay, and so the previous variant of the other one called corn lily is the simplest way to call it, and I'll throw it back up there. It's like another variant of hellebore, which is why it get confused sometime because it doesn't look like it. Which is why it also often is called the false hellebore or the white hellebore.
Okay, well that makes sense.
So, okay, the black ones are the ones that the Greeks used, which were still poisonous, just not as poisonous as the white ones.
Well, that's good, I guess.
So, ironically enough, the black one was, contrary to the looks, the black one was the safer of the variants to eat.
You know what? I could believe that.
So, there's your little botany of the day.
Well done. Okay, good to know.
I did not know that. I was curious. I'm like, how did people eat this and think this was a mess? And like, okay, I don't know how they thought the black one. You know what? I bet I know how they thought the black one. They probably thought it was a type of tea or something like that.
Yeah, you see, you know what? This is why you shouldn't drink tea. That's what I'm taking from this. That's my thought process. Beware of tea.
I'm assuming that they made it into a tea because I know, but then again, I don't know. That was China who made most of their plant-based medicine into teas. I think Greeks and Roman, they just mushed it up into a paste and fed it to people, if memory serves correctly.
That sounds right. Well, it'll take an expert in botany, or I guess an expert in
Ancient
to tell us
botany,
that.
actually, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if there is such a practice. I mean, there probably is.
Because I think with the Greeks and the Romans, they grounded up this stuff and fed it to people. Because I know the Chinese actually would brew it, which is how you get. That's where herbal tea come from. Herbal tea is literally a tea that is brewed not using the leaves of a tea plant. It's using a leaf of anything else. So like chamomile, jasmine. Name a random plant that you can boil with water to make juice out of, and that is a herbal tea at that point.
I agree with Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's just hot leaf juice.
Yeah, and coffee's hot bean juice.
I don't like coffee either.
As you just alienated the other half of our audience.
Pretty much. But yeah, so where was I? So the final thing is why the disparity between Brutish Monster and Craftsman? Well, actually, the Craftsman might be the easiest thing to tell because, believe it or not, the Craftsman may come from an actual practice used by ancient blacksmiths. And this was the days when there were no face shields. So blacksmiths often would wear an eye patch while they were. If a hot piece of metal or any type of flame caught up and hit them in the eye, they'd still have one eye left. So that's where the Cyclops being great craftsman could have very well come from.
And that's why all Minecraft weaponsmith have eye patches.
Do they really?
Yes.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess so. You'll have to ask Minecraft if they were a fan of original blacksmiths, or they just did that for aesthetic purposes.
I think they did it for aesthetic purposes because, well, it's tough. What I'm now trying to remember is they didn't have all of these roles for villagers. And I believe the weaponsmith used to just be the blacksmith. But then they made the armorsmith, the blacksmith became essentially the armorsmith, and the weaponsmith became for weapons primarily, where the weaponsmith got the eye patch, and the blacksmith, I think, got goggles of some type, if memory serves correctly.
Sounds right.
So they went through iteration, but the one smith always did have the eye patch. So
there you go.
Yeah, Mojane's got it right.
Kudos to Minecraft. And that pretty much concludes our talk on the Cyclops, which I think this is one of the shorter videos we've done in a while. I think. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out. But yeah, anything you guys want to add about it?
I got one, and I think Zed will agree that this needed to be brought up because we just did the dragons. And it would be a tragedy if we didn't bring in at least one dragon.
God. I had no idea where that was going. We'll never escape them.
We gotta bring in at least
one. It's gonna be a thing now. We're gonna post a dragon and videos just to keep this going.
I mean,
oh God. For those on Spotify and not watching on YouTube, what they just posted was the one-eyed shield dragon. Congratulations, you found a dragon Cyclops. I forgot this existed.
I got one more.
Oh, come on.
I got one more one-eyed dragon. This one's actually historical.
I don't believe you for some reason.
What?
Date, I'm gonna butcher his last name. Date Musahime. The one-eyed, he was referred to, Date Masamune.
Masamune.
Date Masamune was referred to as the one-eyed dragon. He was one of the generals, one of the warlords during the warring state periods of Japan. He was northern Japan, if memory serves correctly. He was actually one of the last one to survive towards the ending of the warring state periods. Yeah, and he was because of how fierce he was on the battlefield, he was referred to as the one-eyed dragon.
I believe that.
They have a statue of him, but the statues show him with both his eyes. I think he lost his eyes very late towards the end of his life, when he actually got that name. So the statue either that or the statue just depict him before he got without the eye patch for some reason. But or maybe they just call him One Eye just to mess with the guy. because they
Probably
they
that.
they did a lot of things to mess with people during the War and State period. And one big thing about the War and State period is they had every major character during the War and State period had a second name. So there was the name we all know them by, and then there was the name that they went by, and then pretty much every time they did something big, they got a nickname added to their name. So, so it
Yeah,
can get
well, no, and again, this was part of our talk about dragons becoming a, denotion of greatness.
there's a actual picture of a historical picture of him.
Yeah, the other one looks better.
Yeah, well, that one's from a video game, so
Still looks better.
I had to throw in some dragons just because.
Al, they were Cyclops dragons, so well done.
So there we go. We had to get in our dragon quota for maybe this will become the new thing. Zed will have the the Pokemon of the week of the episode. I will have the dragon of the episode.
Well, I'll give you props. You continue on it, which means you're gonna have to find a dragon for our next topic.
Uh-oh,
Is it the
next?
Wendigo?
Oh, Wendigo?
Is it Wendigo?
Is that what's next?
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't have the book out with me.
I have the book. Give me a second.
And while I'm at it, that book is Probable, Plausible, and Explanatory Guide
Wendigo.
to Monster Myth. So I was right, which
It's-
you can get for more information.
How the hell am I gonna find a dragon Wendigo?
Hey, you set yourself up for this. You set yourself up for this. Now you're gonna have to try.
I can find something that look like a Wendigo that's a dragon.
We'll see how it goes. Well, I think that covers everything.
Yep, I got no more dragon puns, so jokes left in me.
Sounds good. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll see you time for
We'll see you next time then. See ya.
later.